What advice can you give to the audience in terms of driving that conversation with the leadership teams to convince them that there is a better outcome to be gained by being more resonant and relevant to customers if you take a storytelling approach rather than a traditional proposition-driven approach?
I think sometimes you can see it in the data. So what assets are being consumed? So if you've got a media partner, what's your top? So we use MediaCom, they give us our top 10. So here's your top 10 assets, and guess what? It's not the product spec sheet.
Yeah.
It's not the features, it's the benefits. It's what is the value that I'm getting as an individual? What is the journey? What is the story about the real person that has to implement the technology? And what is the risks of not adopting emerging trends or aligning to emerging trends in their industry? There are many obstacles. And I think really you can push on your partners to share those and then share that with your exec team. I think executives, you need to give them their credit as well. I mean, our president sits with the boardrooms of Europe. And I think actually sales are the best sources of stories. Tell me the difference it made to your customer. Why are they doing that? What is the outcomes? What is the journey that your customer is on? Why have they done it? I mean, we had we was at Gartner Symposium 2 weeks ago. We ran a workshop. Sometimes you can just do here's my business resilience, here's my backup and recovery software solution. Or you can tell a story about what happened to one of their peers. The fact that, imagine this, you are the CIO, you've been out playing golf all day with your Dell Technologies account manager. You've finished the 18th hole, you're in the 19th hole, and you pick up your phone. Sorry, I know this is your phone. And you see you've got 200 missed calls. 50 are from the CEO, 50 are from the CTO, 50 is from the CFO. What do you do next? You probably think something's happened. And this is a real life story. And he phoned up and basically ransomware had been hit by their company. It taken down their whole global IT infrastructure. And they were not able to transact. And he was like, so what would you do first? So we ran a scenario. So you're now the CIO. This is their journey. What would you do? We'd ring. Who would you ring? Well, actually, you can't ring anyone because ActiveSync is down, and they're asking you for 3 million quid to give you your data back. So what would you do? Would you pay the ransom of 3 million or 5 million to get it back up and recovery? I mean, then you play out a scenario. You put yourself in that story. So what's the implications for the CMO? Because you need to disclose your customer information. You've just lost everything. What's the implications for, we said to the CIOs, what would you do next? And they said, well, update my LinkedIn. Looking for a new job. It's like, okay. And it's quite funny. I was sitting between, there was a CIO which was like 5 minutes late, was doing scenarios. We was talking about this around the table. And this CISO was next to me and he goes, did you tell him what happened to us? And exactly the same thing happened to us. And he went through this whole scenario with this group of people that this is the journey we had to go on. We had no data. Our business literally stopped trading and we could not recover anything because someone was ransoming us. And then we kind of went through these scenarios and then you end up saying, well, this is how you would approach that. And this is what this customer did, which is a lot more impactful because you take them on the journey. And, but rather than just stand up saying, well, here's the features, here's the fact. Cybercrime has arrived, right? You know, all the scaremongering, but actually put in the person as a real person and play out that scenario, it becomes more impactful because people can understand that if they was in their situation, you would be pretty much, why is the CEO ringing me? Is he in the bar waiting for me to buy me a drink?
So I guess you can take some of that learning then, and the organisation that helped, whether it was yours or other ones, helped overcome those situations, then they can use some of that preventative action in their storytelling, and they can use some of the retrospective action in their storytelling for organisations that have been victims of ransomware. So in the last 5 minutes, I want to drop onto the point of personalisation, because we've discussed this a lot in various workshops today, or discussions today. And the overriding theme was personalisation is important, but there's a fine line between where personalisation becomes invasive. So in a B2B context, in a storytelling context, how important do you think personalisation is in the next year, 12, 24, 36 months? To come to you.
So
It depends what you mean by personalisation, of course, because I think many people think personalisation says, "Dear Jason," at the top of it. Actually, personalisation is about that experience you create. The key thing, we're just talking about journey, I use the word conversation, understanding where you are in a conversation. The problem we have, certainly in the digital channels, is that we now have these echo chambers that have been created where we are being served things that the platforms think we might like. For example, I bought a candle 2 weeks ago. I now, if I open any of my feeds, seem to only want to have candles. The fact is, I bought one 2 weeks ago. Right? I don't want to buy another one. My wife would love me to, but I don't need one until the new year. So it's understanding where you are in that conversation, I think, is the first thing that you need to know, and don't always be on sell. And I think it sort of plays into some of the stories that we've just been hearing, really, which is going, first off, when you're new, you want to say hello to somebody, then you want to introduce yourself, then you want to get them to like you. Potentially, then you're going to sell them something. And just understanding those things, for me, are the fundamentals of how we do our task. But personalization, to answer your original question, the beauty of these platforms are that they allow us to look at segmentation and how we tell different stories to different customers who are in different parts of that conversation. So now I'm often faced with a chart as big as this table, which starts to tell me the messaging against the individuals that we're talking to. Now, not individual by name, but individual by the type of person they are in that journey. So we start to work through these journeys to make sure the conversation is relevant. But, you know, just look at Netflix. If you want to know what fantastic personalization looks like, look at how they work.
You get onto the point really quickly that personalization in B2B is not the same as personalization in B2C. And it's not necessarily about, I bought that candle, so now you need this holder type thing. But I think there is a point about making sure that personalization understands the point at which that buyer is now engaged with you and what content you subsequently deliver to them.
Absolutely.
That matches either the buying point or their individual challenges and pain points. And if you can't match that story to that individual's challenges and pain points, and that could be different personas inside an organization, then I think your storytelling strategy is going to be flawed. So storytelling needs to take into account the people that you are talking to, the personas that you're talking to, the stage that they're at on the buying journey, and what's going to remain memorable to them when they come to make decisions about what vendors they're choosing to supply different services.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work in this area to look at data and insights. So 80% of the world's data touches a Dell device or piece of infrastructure at one time or another. But because we serve most of the FTSE 500, we've got a ton of data around what your infrastructure is. So what we've started to look at is what data, what insights do we have about your infrastructure as the CIO? That's like one of our main points of contact. Now, we know, because we own the estate in the data center, probably more than what your individual teams do. So can we use that data and insights to tell a compelling story about why you would want to transform within your industry? What is the impact of not transforming in your industry? Would you become the Clinton Cards, which happens today? Or would you be the Blockbuster? Would you be the Nokia? If you're not thinking about these trends about your industry and then linking it to data and personalize it to your own unique environment about, you know, what's happening with your company, you need to modernize your IT so you can deliver new capabilities to compete with startups that are entering your industry. If you don't reduce this technical debt as the CIO, there's one thing, you're going to be out of a job. And secondly, your company probably won't survive the next 3 to 5 years because people will start to be more agile, bring new products and services quicker to you and take your market share, like I said earlier.
I think we've got time for one last comment, Sakina, from you.
Yeah, I think personalization is super important in B2B. I think, I was reading this research that was done in the US, and each typical customer is bombarded with 4,000 to 10,000, between 4 and 10,000 messages per day. Imagine that, we are making people immune to all these messages. And from my perspective, our customers, especially in the B2B sector, they need to know that my vendor or my supplier or this brand understands me, understands my challenge. Otherwise, what's the difference? What's the competitive advantage? So I think, it's super important for us to personalize it, not become creepy, but really personalize it and making sure that we tell our customers that we understand you and we are there to help you.
And to back your point up, there was a stat that I read a couple of days ago that 5% of all branded content gets 90% of engagement.
There you go.
So that shows the value that some people are doing it really well. Vast majority, probably not.
And on that point, hopefully there's a lot that people who aren't doing necessarily well today can learn from this fascinating discussion that we've just had, which could probably go on for some time yet. So thank you very much, guys.
All right,
Thank you
thanks.
for having me.
Cheers.